I'm Indy Nidell. Welcome to the Great War, and welcome to the second edition of our special episodes with Othais. Now this time, we're going to introduce you to French pistols of World War I and tell you something of the philosophy behind them. All right, so let's hit pistols then, shall we?
All right. So, again, old technology and a little bit of new this time, but barely. So, the French go into the war starting with their default handgun as being the 1892 revolver, and we're going to have to get close on this to even see it. This is the 1892. It really is like most other military revolvers in the time in that it's a fairly small cartridge. This is 8mm ordnance. It really, sorry about the focus, it's not, you can tell by my finger, it's not the biggest, most powerful cartridge. This is a civilized cartridge. We're going to see from other colonial nations like Britain and the US that they've adopted cartridges designed to actually physically stop an attacker that might have a spear or something. This is not what the French are using. The French are using a civilized, quote-unquote, cartridge, and that it's designed to use against other Europeans or someone who's likely to get shot and then go, okay, I quit.
Okay. Unlike the rifle stuff, which, as you said, was more powerful than an AK-47.
Yeah, it's true. Now, the reason for the rifles, though, is just because of range. Everything about the rifle is range, 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 range. Everything about the pistols, however, is just personal defense, and mostly just to be iconic. They're there for a little marksmanry. They're there for a symbol of your rank. They're there for very close-range personal defense, but otherwise there's not a lot of thought put into a lot of these guns. In terms of the Great War, very few nations have well-thought-out pistols. The Germans do a little bit because there are big commercial concerns involved, and their actual adopted pistol is actually very advanced. The US, again, very advanced pistol that they put a lot of thought into, but for the most part, European nations, they're not thinking too hard about their pistols. They just want them to work reliably, which is why the revolver keeps coming up instead of semi-automatic handguns. So France carries this. This is a gun from 1892. It's a single and double action revolver, which means, for anybody that doesn't know, the first action would be dropping the hammer, the second action would be the ability to pull it back. So in this case, and again, I want to make sure everybody knows, we are being safe, it's unloaded. If I manually cock this back, you notice it's retract my trigger. So just the lightest little press, and it goes off. That's single action, meaning the only action the trigger does is drop the hammer. In case I need to draw and fire in a hurry, I have the ability to pull the trigger, and the first action is that it cocks the hammer back, and the second action is that it drops it. So that's double action. So it can do both. When you think of old cowboy guns and they have to fan the hammers, that's because they were all single only. Double is the ability to do both. You generally see both in military revolvers. The British later will have some double onlys, things like that, but this is single only. This gun's claim to fame is its unusual loading gate, which is that, or not loading gate, it has a sort of a false gate, because we lift it back like a loading gate, but then the cylinder actually swings out. The thing is, and you guys might not be all that familiar with, it's swinging out to the right. So if I'm right-handed, if I want to load, I'd have to cross my hand, and a lot of people have been confused about that over the years. The reason they did it is this was designed primarily for cavalry, and the French were trained to take up the reins in the left hand. And so they expected that if a soldier is riding and has to shoot, they're going to shoot reins left, gun right. And then when they want to load, they're going to have to do all that fine manipulation with their right hand. They want to be able to be right-handed about it. So they'll take the handgun and they'll move it over to the other hand and then use the right hand to go through the process of loading. This little guy, and you can see on my little side screen, very small, very compact. I can hide the whole thing away almost. This is the Ruby, as it's been nicknamed. This is considered by the French to be the Model 15. These are made out of Spain, and they're actually a copy of a Browning design known as the 1903. Now, Spain had unusual patent law at the time. I don't know if they still do, actually, but at the time they did. You had to be producing within Spain within a certain amount of time and yada, yada, yada. The short answer is it was very hard to enforce a patent in Spain, and Browning was not able to enforce his patent for the 1903 in Spain. So a number of clones of the gun, and believe me, they don't look a lot alike. I wish I had one handy, but I don't. They don't look a lot alike, but internally they function the same. A lot of these clones showed up in the Ibar region of Spain, and so they became known as the Ibar type. Like a bunch of home shops and small factories were making them. The French during World War I were grasping for anything that they could use, especially over land, because they don't, ports and all, it's a nightmare. So if they can get it straight off of Spain over land, they'll take it. So they contract, and I'm sorry, my Spanish pronunciation is horrible, but they contract with oh good lord, Gabliondo y Resti España or something like that. They contract with them for a couple thousand of these guys, and the trade name for that company was to call this the Ruby. Other countries would call it the Destroyer, they'd call it all sorts of different names. But this company called it the Ruby, and so the French called it the Ruby. Now, the French demanded more and more of these. It created a boom industry in Spain, a huge, huge industry in Spain, because millions of these were produced by, dozens of manufacturers. Because essentially, the initial company started getting subcontractors in. They started, you produce these barrels, you produce these slides, get them to us, we'll fit them. The subcontractors started making deals with the French directly, and the French needed so many that they didn't care. So the Spanish realized that this could be a bad thing for their boom industry, so they all got together and they colluded and they came up with a fixed price for the region. And then they just all made whatever they could make, and the French bought whatever they could get as long as it met standards. So believe it or not, despite being hand-filed in many cases, these are fairly reliable little 32 ACP pistols. They use a small cartridge. They're simple blowback, so the weight of the sort of bolt itself is what contains the explosion at first, and then gets driven back, and a simple spring brings it forward. Not a lot of advanced features on this gun, but it works, and it's cheap, and they can get them, in packs of 100,000 at a time. So there's a whole industry in Spain that's just turning these things out. The one and only real big problem with these is that because there's so many subcontractors, is that the French were discovering that the magazines would not fit between pistols. You had to have the magazine for your pistol, or at least from that subcontractor.
Oh man!
And how could you keep those apart? Actually, was it like lottery?
So here's what they did. They literally have, you can tell who your subcontractor is because there's a two-letter code on the back, and it's probably not easy to see, but I'll have photos up. There's a 2-digit code in a circle here. They would stamp it there. They would stamp it on the toe of the magazine. And so that way you'd know that these two went together. You wouldn't get it confused with your buddies, and it would stay with your gun. It's not like you were given an extra anyway. You only had the one magazine.
If you missed the first part of our series about French rifles, you can check it out right here. And if you want to find out more about the Ruby pistol, check out Othais' channel C&Rsenal, where he talks about it in depth. In our next live session, Othais will introduce us to German rifles of the First World War. Now, if you already have questions for that live event, you can post them in the comments under the hashtag Othais German Guns. The live event will likely be in early September, we think. But follow us on Facebook or Twitter to not miss the announcement. See you later.